cried aloud, to you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbuts, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up. And whoso falleth not down and worship it, shall the same hour be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Jump down to verse number 10. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music. He shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoso falleth not down and worship it, that he should be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. What's happened here is Nebuchadnezzar set up a statue, and it's a fairly large statue. And he tells everybody, you've got to bow down to this statue, and if you don't, you're going to be cast into the burning fiery furnace. It's a very familiar story. We all know it. I've always seen this statue as a picture of Satan because it's big. It means a lot. I've got a feeling it was hard to make. And Satan's big. Satan's powerful. He's going to do everything that he's got to destroy your life. Even in Job, he did everything that God allowed him to destroy what hope that Job did have for God. And Satan's willing to do anything he has to make you useless for God. Go to Exodus chapter number 7. Satan's also a mocker. He's going to do what he can to prove that he's just as big as God. Verse number 11 it says, Then Pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers, now the magicians of Egypt. They also did in like manner with their enchantments. Satan had just turned all the sorcerers' rods into snakes, just like Aaron's rod. Satan did just what God did. But if you keep reading in verse number 12, it says, For they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents. But Aaron's rods swallowed up their rods. God's always going to be bigger, and he's always going to be stronger. And God has no limits. He's not going to stop doing what he's got to use your life. God knows everything. He knows what he's got for your life. He knows what he's got to do. He knows what you're going to go through on the way there. He's everywhere. He's with you, sitting in the seat next to you, and he's up here with me. And our God can save us. Go back to Daniel chapter number 3. We'll be in verse number 25. It says, He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spake, and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth out of the midst of the fire. God saved them just like he can save you. We don't trust God to do stuff like this anymore. We don't think, oh, God's going to keep us from burning alive. But God still can. And God's willing to. So, who is your hope? Who are you relying on today? Are you relying on God to save you? Are you relying on God to bring you out of whatever trial you're going through? Or are you relying on the world to make you happy? Are you relying on Satan to bring you joy and happiness? Who are you listening to? The music of these days is very not very Jesus uplifting. It's not exactly meant for Christians to hear. But in 1 Samuel chapter number 3, God calls Samuel with an audible voice that he can hear. And in verse number 10, Samuel says, Speak, for thy servant heareth. He was willing to listen to God. He was willing to give up the life that he had. I think he was having a good life at this time, but he was willing to give it up to serve God. He was listening to God at the time. Who do you serve? Are you serving God? Are you on the bus route at your church? Are you going to Sunday school every Sunday? Are you in the service paying attention? Or are you going out with the friends that you know you're not supposed to be around? Are you going out and having fun that you know you're not supposed to have? In Matthew chapter number 6, verse number 24, it says, No man can serve 2 masters. So you're either going to serve the world and serve everything that they've got for you, or you're going to serve God. Who do you love? In that same verse, it says, for either he will hate the one and love the other. Do you love everything that the world got for you? Do you love all the music? Do you love the pictures that you know you're not supposed to be looking at? Or do you love going to church on Sunday? Do you love your bus route? Do you love your Sunday school class? Do you love your pastor? Do you love church? So, rely on God. Listen to God. Make sure that God is going to talk to you. Make sure that you're able to hear God. Serve God. Love God. Make God your hope. Even in Samson's death, he turned back to God. And he made sure that the last thing he did was pray to God. He wasn't going to try to do it with the strength that he had, which at this point in his life wasn't much. He went to God for his strength, and he went to God as his hope.